Okay, we're ready. Yeah.
I will now call to order the April 23rd meeting of the Historic Review Board. First, we will ask if there are any public comments for items not on the agenda this evening.
Chair Ferry, would you like me to call roll before we begin?
Oh, of course, thank you.
Board Member Edgar?
Here.
Board Member Powell?
Here.
Board Member Lawrence?
Here.
Chair Ferry?
Here.
And Board Member Green is absent tonight. Thank you.
So since there are no no public comments, we will move on to the public hearing portion of the agenda. We have two public hearings on land use applications scheduled tonight. Our role is to conduct the public hearing and make decisions about the matter before us. In making those decisions, we must apply the applicable codes and laws and cannot vary from or change those laws or codes. Members of the Historic Review Board are to be unbiased. Before the start of the hearing, I will ask the board members whether they have any potential conflicts, such as family, financial, or business relationships with any of the applicants or with regard to the land in question. I will ask whether any of the board members have discussed the application in question with any of the parties or have independent knowledge of relevant facts, such as a visit from the site. Any member of the audience may question any board member about their disclosures. A staff report has been prepared for each application and has been made available to the public 7 days before the first public hearing. The staff report identifies the approval criteria that apply to each applicant's proposal. Staff has analyzed the criteria which are contained in the staff report. The quasi-judicial hearing procedure that the board will follow is set out in state law and the Oregon City Municipal Code. The hearing procedure steps are shown on the chart. Anyone wishing to speak should fill out a speaker's card and email it to the planning staff before the hearing. Speakers will proceed in the order in which their card is received. You should fill out your address on the card so that the city will notify you of its final decision. For the public record, please begin all testimony stating your name and city of residence. Testimony and evidence should be directed toward the applicable approval criteria. If you believe other criteria apply, in addition to those addressed in the staff report, identify and discuss those criteria and explain how and why you believe they apply to the application under consideration. Any person may submit written material while the public record is open on each application. Any written materials received by the city staff during that time period in which the record is open will be placed in the record. Written materials submitted during the public hearing must be presented to city staff in order to become part of the record. If a person intends for PowerPoint presentations, reports, pictures, or other exhibits used in their oral testimony to be placed in the record, copies must be submitted to the city staff while the record is open. If they're not given to staff, they will not be included in the record. Any person wishing a continuance to present additional evidence and testimony or to keep the record open to respond to new evidence must make that request before the public testimony portion of the hearing is closed. If the Historic Review Board makes a decision with which you disagree, any issue that you may wish to appeal must have been raised on the record for the consideration of the City Commission or the Land Use Board of Appeals, or both. Without raising the issue on the record with sufficient detail, and accompanied by statements or evidence that the city and all parties can respond to the issue, will not be deemed appealable to the City Commission or State Land Use Board of Appeals. In addition, the failure of an applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient detail to allow the local government or its designee to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. We will now open the record for Oregon City File Number GLUA 2407 and HR 2406. A historic review of new construction for a dwelling unit in conjunction with an existing office use, the G.R.H. Miller House in the McLoughlin Conservation District. This is at 406 Promenade. I will now ask if any board member, if they have any ex parte contacts, conflicts of interest, bias, or any other statement to declare, if they have made a site visit, and if they have noted any material information. Board member Edgar?
I have visited the site. I have no conflicts of interest, and that's it.
Okay. Board Member Powell?
No conflicts. I did visit the site. I am the chair of the McLoughlin Neighborhood Association, and that discussion on this property took place at our steering committee meeting 2 weeks ago. I left the room. I chose not to attend, so I heard none of the discussion. Sorry. Shall I do that again? I'm no conflicts. I did make a site visit, and I am the chair of the McLoughlin Neighborhood Association, where this was discussed during our steering committee meeting. I chose to leave the room during that discussion, so I heard none of that.
And Board Member Lawrence?
I have no conflicts, and I have visited the site.
I have no conflicts of interest, expert take contact, and I have also visited the site. Does anyone in the audience wish to question any of the board members about these disclosures? All right, well, we will now commence with the planning staff report.
Thank you, Chair Ferry. HRB members. Get the presentation up. Here we go. All right, so this is for the approval of a standalone dwelling unit on this property. It is a zoned mixed-use corridor. The historic landmark, the Miller House, is actually an office right now. And so what the applicant is requesting is to have a dwelling unit be built in association with that office, which is a permitted use. So a new single-family house would not be allowed in the zone, but this is people often think of it as the apartment above the store, but in our zoning code, we don't differentiate that it has to be in the same building, just on the same lot. So that's what the applicant is moving towards. This is an infill project. The applicant has proposed a one-story bungalow with real simple vernacular elements positioned even with the abutting 2 homes on High Street. The historic landmark fronts Promenade, but the rear of the yard is on High Street. So in a sense, it's a double fronted lot. So the new dwelling unit will face High Street. And if you were standing and walking, you would not realize it's, it's the rear of the landmark. The design was chosen to be compatible with the historic vernacular resource without competing or replicating its architectural elements. And the bungalow design provides a lower mass and uses an architectural design that is recommended for McLoughlin and found in the district. So while it is a bungalow, it is kind of bringing in some vernacular elements, but it's still a bungalow design because it's kind of low and long. But this evening, there's in the staff report, there was a historic review board direction for 2 items. One is to determine if additional conditions need to be added to express the desired porch details. The applicant's architect is here this evening, and I think the goal is to work out either agreeing what's proposed or work out a revised condition of approval regarding the porch. In the staff report, there was, staff brought up the use of a lap-sided chimney that didn't go all the way up to past the roof line, and that has been resolved in the revised elevations that were sent to you today. And so that has been removed, and there's no longer a lap-sided chimney on this proposal. 2 comments, or 2 items we entered in the record. The McLoughlin Neighbors Association provided comments related to the narrative. They requested a site plan that showed a streetscape elevation. That's actually only required for commercial buildings for our submittal requirements, so the applicant was not required to provide a streetscape elevation. And they questioned if this parcel would be divided. In this situation, because the dwelling unit has to be associated with the office, it actually can't be divided. In the staff report, I discussed if for some reason the office use went back to residential, then this would be considered a detached duplex, and then it could be divided. So in its case today, with the office use and the landmark, it would not be able to be divided. But there could be a future scenario where it could be, and that's based on our mixed-use corridor zoning. The applicant provided revised elevation plans, and I have those in my PowerPoint presentation so you can see the revision. Just to orientate you, this is a landmark property that faces the Promenade, so it's actually addressed off of Promenade Street. Where you see the star is the location of the proposed dwelling unit, and the street streetscape photo of High Street shows generally the arrow between the other landmark on your left, which is also called the Miller House, just to be very confusing. So I called that the rental, and I made sure to use the 4th Street address. But that's also a vernacular, same builder, very simple house, built right at the property line, which actually really helps providing some flexibility of where this new infill goes in. The house on the other side is a 20s house, and it's not individually designated, though it's contributing to the district, but it's not a designated structure. This is the G.R.H. Miller house. It's a vernacular house. To the left is the photo from the survey form. To the right is the rear yard provided by the applicant, so kind of where the roses are. You're looking right straight through the gate at High Street. The applicant has provided a site plan. You'll see the proposed house. There is a setback. I remember it's 10 feet from the right-of-way on High Street, and then there is definitely a 10-foot separation between the existing office and the proposed home. I do have a condition of approval that actually allows the applicant to slightly push it up towards High Street if they want to. Sometimes when you're citing everything and you get your building permits and you're looking for your foundation, you realize it might be easier to put something maybe 1 foot closer. So I do have a condition that says it can be slightly moved up just because the other abutting landmark is built right to the property line. But in no way would they be closer than 10 feet from the historic landmark. This provides a floor plan. This is a 1-story dwelling unit. So what you see here was the submitted elevation. So there is a discrepancy between the roof design of the front elevation, where it says right on there, and then the side elevation that doesn't show how the porch roof connects up. The applicant submitted this revised design. You'll see that in the side elevation, it shows the porch roof. I think the larger question is, can the applicant provide a porch that maybe fits within the eave of the proposed dwelling, so the porch is not going past the eave, and so I'll leave that up to the conversation with the applicant. It is an 812 roof, so I think trying to make the geometry work, but I'll leave that conversation between the applicant and the board. I'm just looking for a clarified condition of approval of what you want to see out of the roof for the porch. I have a fair amount of conditions of approval. I want to go through them real quickly. I'm going to look this way. If you'll see number 3, I actually left out a common condition we add, and so I added it back to number 3. While we can't regulate paint colors after this gets built, I like to see this as like the midwife condition of approval. We get it going to a good start. So we've generally always required a minimum 3-color paint scheme, with the sashes being the darkest color, which is kind of an historic paint scheme that you'd see for a vernacular or bungalow. So I've added that to number 3. Number 4 is just our standard porch design from our HRB policies on historic homes. So if there's small changes to the porch design, as long as they meet the HRB policy on porches, that's what this condition is. Let's see, next one. Conditions 5 and 6 are generally related to windows, and just clarifying: no slider doors, no vinyl windows, no fancy lighting that's not associated with the architecture. Number 7 relates to that setback question, that the applicant, if they want to, could push it slightly further, closer to High Street, but in no way can it get closer than 10 feet to the historic landmark. Number 8 is actually a technical planning question. The way the code requires for mixed-use corridor, you can't be more than 50% of square footage of the total development. So they just have to show me the math, that the square footage of the landmark and the square footage of the new construction, and the new construction is no more than 50% of the development. So that's just a requirement. So they meet our development code for the underlying zone. And then the applicant in the finals, I just want to make sure that the submitted plans and the final building permit either say front, side, rear elevation, or high street, rear. The left, right, it was confusing, so I just requested the kind of front, side, rear when they turn in for building permit. And then, as always, you have options this evening. Approve the proposal with conditions, which are staff's recommendation, including the revision to include the paint scheme. Number 2, approve the proposal with modified conditions. This would include any additional porch condition you want to write. Deny the proposal and provide revised findings, or continue the hearing and request more information. So I'm available for questions that the board may have, and I know the applicant and their architect are here this evening.
Thanks, Christina. Do any members of the board have any questions for city staff?
The orientation of the house, it's not, the porch is not facing High Street.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
It is?
Yeah. And that's why the confusion of the left, right. What you
Okay.
see in the right, where it says right elevation, that is the High Street elevation.
Okay, the way the wording was.
That's why I want to make sure that we're all following.
Okay,
Yeah, so the right elevation is the High Street, the front elevation is rear, that's what is
Okay.
facing the back towards the landmark, and then the left and right. The left is what you see right next to the other Miller landmark, and then on the right is what you see from the non-designated, like 1920s house, if that helps you.
If there are no more questions for staff, we'll move on to public testimony.
I have a quick question for
Oh,
staff.
apologies.
Christine, number 1, in the prior to issuance of building permits, you call out a 4 to 6 inch reveal smooth fiber cement siding or wood lap siding.
Yeah.
And is that a condition that is something that can be discussed, or is that something that is kind of set in stone that fiber cement siding is acceptable?
So fiber cement siding has been an approved material, but it's smooth reveal, not wood grain reveal.
Okay, and does that dictate architectural siding or just the 1/4 inch hardy?
We've allowed
smooth?
hardy plank for new construction. Now, if this was a designated historic building, it would be a different conversation,
Okay.
but we have allowed historically. Now, the 4 to 6 inch reveal is pretty typical for bungalows, so I left that as just a standard placeholder.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
Christine, I do have a question. On the drawings that show it's noted front elevation, which would actually be the back rear elevation.
Yeah.
Was there any discussion regarding, if you look at the actual floor plan, there's a, I assume where the divider there is, it comes out because there's an entry door there.
Correct,
At least
there's
it
a side
shows.
entry door.
But that nowhere on here can you see that.
Correct,
And
and
it
that's
also
why
says porch. So is that what we're going to be talking about, that porch as well?
No, we're talking about what you see from High Street.
Okay.
So there is a door on the rear, and that to make sure that would be either a French door or a regular door, that a slider door would not
Right.
be allowed.
Right, yeah, so it is difficult to see that when you don't get that angle. You can't tell that there's and what it's probably on the drawing, but
Yeah, it's a little inset rear porch.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Are there any more questions for planning staff? Okay. All right. So we'll move on to the public testimony. Just a reminder, the applicant will speak first. They have up to 15 minutes to describe their application, and then we'll do 5 minutes for representatives of recognized neighborhood organizations, 3 minutes for individuals, or 5 minutes, and then 5 minutes for an applicant's rebuttal. So I'd like to invite the applicant up. So you have 15 minutes to describe your application.
Come on, all up.
Should have told you to turn the mic.
Thank you, Beth. Sorry, Beth.
Okay. Sorry.
Do I start over, or are we okay?
I heard.
We're
You can
okay?
continue, yeah.
Okay. So yes, we have two children that are still in the Westland School District. Our in-laws help us a lot with childcare, picking them up, taking them to soccer games and activities around the community. And so we just love to have them close to where we work so they can go pick up the kids, bring them back to their home, and they're in what's now our backyard. So that's our goal, and I think eventually we intend on potentially converting the G.R.H. Miller house into our own home and kind of just having the family live there. So we have roots in this community, and we'd love to be able to develop the property and get our in-laws moved in, just to have them in proximity and in a new build that we don't have to worry about any sort of repairs for a few years, and get them settled. And Mike Stone is our architect who has been doing wonderful work getting this all planned out. So I'll turn that over to Mr. Stone.
Okay. The concept was originally looked at as an accessory dwelling unit, which really wasn't appropriate in the code for the use. But the main goal was, a secondary living unit on the site to provide affordability for the family, as well as the need for eventually wanting to turn the historic home back into a home. This would be a nice complement to it. The design was to mostly make sure that we had connection with High Street to get the living area, the porch, and to have a strong connection to that, to where pedestrian use is connected easily to the home, as well as providing some security as well, where you can see what's going on the street and be connected to your neighbors and everything else within the area. So that was the entire goal of the project and why we put the living and the porch on the front of it. The design started out very vernacular, like the original structure, and then we made some element changes to bungalow that appear to be more preferred in the district. So that's kind of what we went with. And I know there's going to be some questions coming up on the porch, which we can discuss. We have lots of open mind on those, so I think that describes the project.
Thank you very much. Do any board members have any questions, or do we have any? We don't have any comments, or?
Chair Ferry, there is one person online, and I'm
Okay.
not, let's see, never mind, they left.
Okay. All right.
No, we don't have any comments.
Okay. All right. Do any board members have questions for the applicant?
Well, I would like, sorry, I would like to talk about the porch. Let's have some discussion about that, because it is difficult to see from the drawings. And
Chair, I'm sorry, Board Member Powell, is your microphone on?
it's on.
Okay.
You can,
Just double checking.
It is on. I checked it this time. Where I was, we were talking about the porch, and I'm interested in what you're thinking about there, by way of, the overall structure, roofing, that type of thing.
Okay. So on the original home with vernacular design, the main body roof is somewhat unassociated with the front porch. The front porch attaches to the gable front and has its own pitch and its own separation, I guess I would say, from the main body of the roof. a bungalow plan, more often the roof will integrate and that becomes more of a brow that goes all the way around the front with the same pitch, our 812 pitch that's currently on the structure. So when we went to that bungalow design, I connected those up, which allowed us to bring the porch the full width of the front of the structure, providing a little extra, a little bit more, a little bit smoother look to the front of it, a little more bungalow look to it. The applicant has no concerns with going with the vernacular design and going with a lower pitch roof and tucking that up underneath the eaves, identical to the original structure that's on there. The original drawings that were done that way, and they were quite fine with that. That would allow us, we would bring the porch in a few feet on each side, probably approximately 24 inches on both sides, and then that new roof would just tuck up underneath those gables. It would look virtually identical to the original roof on the historic structure that's on Promenade.
Questions? Well, you mentioned in the documentation here, I think I read that there was one discussion about actually making a wraparound porch.
No, it goes full width. It
Just
doesn't
full
really
width.
wrap. It just goes clear to the end. Where in the original vernacular design on the original historic home, it actually stops approximately 24 inches short on both sides. The porch doesn't go clear out to the corner boards of the original front facade of the home.
Thanks. And I mean, I like the full length. I think that adds, especially at that location, I think it adds a nice touch to the house. And the vernacular design is, I think it's integrated. It looks good from what I could see. I just couldn't see the side view, so I couldn't really see what that porch is going to look like and how much length we've got, and is it actually coming off the gable, or that's the difficulty I had, and I think we all had.
Yeah, the porch extends 5 feet from the structure out to the front, and then and then integrates into the sides and then goes up to the front. The gable end is still exposed. A large portion of it is similar to the historic residence. And so there's very little difference. I tried to make sure the proportions were very similar to each other. Because it only sticks out 5 feet, by wrapping those and connecting that main roof in there, I'm able to get a little bit steeper roof on the front with only a 5 foot set out on the porch, which allows some additional exposure of the roof shingles on the front of that, making it look a little more balanced like the original home. If I pull that in 24 inches on both sides and go down to a lower pitch to tuck it underneath, I'm going to have less exposure on the front of those shingles across the front, which you can see on that front elevation. It would increase the siding exposure on that front little gable end, triangular end on the front of the structure. I don't think either one of them will significantly change the overall appearance of the structure or do any damage to the historical connection between the two. So,
A question. I spent some moments just standing and looking and then walking around the neighborhood a little bit today, trying to get myself refreshed. But in the porch, the way you have it designed, you have it interconnected with as you said, with the pitch of the roof, and that extends it out past the side of the house. The roof of the porch actually extends out past the side of the house. And to me, I was looking around at all the other roofs, porch roofs, and none of them extended out past like that of the historic roofs that I saw in the neighborhood. And to me, it would seem more appropriate if the roof, the porch roof did not extend past the side of the house, but equal with the house. And that would be consistent with much of the bungalows that exist in McLoughlin.
okay, and that would be consistent with the front of the existing historical residence too. It would look similar to that. Applicant has no concerns about that. It has no objection to that.
It just didn't, it just seemed to me that the roof should be, the porch roof should be more independent and not connected as you show in the drawings. It's just my opinion.
You're talking about the eaves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I feel that's inconsistent with the bungalow design.
Are there any more questions for the applicant? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Different, because
So we will now move on to board deliberations.
feel out of balance.
Yeah, I like this.
You do it.
Thank you. I like what they're trying to do. I don't see any big problem in it, other than I do not, I wish that the porch roof did not extend past the vertical line of the house. And I think that would be more consistent with the bungalows in the McLoughlin District.
Absolutely.
And that's the only issue that I seem to have. Thank you.
I like the proposed drawing, or I like the existing roof pitches, where it's not going out to the eaves. I agree with you 100% that it doesn't feel weighted properly to be carried all the way through. It should be a separate structure on the front of the building.
My only thought is that I did like that there was a slight differentiation between the new construction versus the original historical design. I do like the historical design with the separate hipped roof. It's hard, it's hard to tell which would be better. I know that we should differentiate new construction slightly from or maybe that's just on additions, but,
Even the existing house.
It's a unique situation,
Does
though.
not extend past.
If the buildings were next to each other, we would
Right.
want to see a bigger differentiation between the new construction and the
Right.
original. Because they're abutted, they really are differentiated by the street-facing sides, and so it's almost more the adjacent properties that come into question than the initial property.
I can see that.
Right, I agree with that. I think that was one of my concerns too, was that there was not enough differentiation, but I do like that. If we can get the roof, I think that would be good. I agree with you, Paul. And I'm assuming that the fencing and all that will come down for construction. And so if the new fence goes up, it should be a legal fence, a 3-foot fence, which it's currently not.
Well, it is a rear fence because
It is a rear fence,
It is a rear
correct, but it
fence.
won't be anymore. It's legal now as a backyard, but it's not
So,
going to be as a front yard.
this is still on the landmark, they'll need to meet the historic review of our policies on fences.
Okay, yeah,
And this
great.
would be a front yard fence.
There was just no notice in here at all about the fencing. And
Right, because they need to meet the fence policies.
Okay,
Yeah. I do have a recommended condition if you want to hear it.
Go ahead.
The applicant shall revise the porch design to, the applicant shall revise the porch to be set inside the gable roof eaves. To achieve this approach, the applicant should utilize a hipped 412 porch roof. Is that what you're looking for?
Sounds good.
Yep.
Okay, we can add that as condition of approval number 10. So we have a revised condition approval 3 with the paint colors and the condition approval 10, which is the revision to the porch.
Sounds good.
Well, I move to approve GULA 2407 and HR 24006 with conditions of approval as written, adjusted by staff.
I second.
Board Member Egger,
Yes.
Board Member Powell,
Aye.
Board Member Lawrence,
Aye.
and Chair Ferry.
Aye. All right, thank you so
Thank you.
much. Good luck
Yeah.
with your project.
It's a great looking project, thank
Yeah.
you.
We look forward to it.
Yeah, you'll get an email of the decision.
What people will do to get free babysitting.
All right, let's see. So we will now move on to public hearing number 2, which is GLUA 2403 and HR 2403, which is solar panel proposal at 607 South McLoughlin Boulevard. I will now ask each board member if they have any ex parte contacts, conflicts of interest, or bias, and if they have visited the site. Board Member Edgar?
I have visited the site. I did attend the neighborhood association meeting and did not make comment or vote when they voted, but, and I have no bias.
Board Member Powell?
No conflicts, no bias, and I did do a site visit.
And Board Member Lawrence?
No conflicts, no ex parte communications, no bias, and I did swing by the site.
And I also have no conflicts of interest, no ex parte contacts, and I visited the site as well. Does anyone in the audience wish to question any of the board members about these disclosures? All right, we will now commence with the staff planning report.
Thank you, Chair Ferry, Historic Review Board members. Good evening. My name is Jude Tadeus, Assistant Planner here at Oregon City, and I'm here to present for your consideration a solar panel proposal for the Narcissa Bowers Residence at 607 South McLoughlin Boulevard in the Canemah Historic District. So, the Narcissa Bowers, before we get into the details of the applicant's proposal, here's some of the core issues that have been identified with the solar panel proposal and how it interacts with Historic Review Board Policy 12 for solar technology. So the Narcissa Bowers Residence, circa 1909, is a non-eligible, non-contributing resource in the district. It's located in the Canemah Historic District at 607 South McLoughlin, and noted to be severely altered with few remaining original historic features at its first historic inventory survey back in 1983. The other core issue is that Historic Review Board Policy 12 specifies that solar technology be placed on secondary roof planes, and this proposal would place 7 of the 13 solar panels on the primary street-facing roof plane, the southern exposure with the highest solar irradiance facing South McLoughlin Boulevard. So these core issues give rise to 2 core questions. Would permitting the proposed array configuration adversely impact the resource or the district? Or would permitting the proposed configuration, given the non-contributing status of the site, meet the comprehensive plan's goals for historic preservation, economic viability, and taking maximum advantage of available solar energy on balance? So these are the questions that we've sort of identified that arise from the issues before us with this proposal. At the time of the creating of this presentation, no public comments had been received. However, public notice signs were posted on site April 1st and removed after April 21st. Only ODOT and the Oregon City Building Division registered any response within that period to the project, and both entities said that the project did not conflict with their interests. However, this evening we received written notification from the Canemah Neighborhood Association that the property owner, Johnny Brainerd, attended a neighborhood association meeting on the 18th to present this project, and the neighborhood association voted unanimously to support the project. A hard copy has been given to each of you and will be entered into the record. So let's talk a little bit about Historic Review Board Policy 12. I'm not going to go into every single point, but the main point has been highlighted here in red. Ordinarily, solar panel projects like these would be subject to a Type 1 staff level review to determine if the HRB policies have been met. The reason we're bringing this to you is because of the section of the policy noted in red, because this project proposes to locate 7 of the 13 solar panels on the primary south-facing McLoughlin facade, which is the roof plane with the highest solar irradiance. All other aspects of the proposal appear to or appear likely to comply with the 6 points that follow this issue in red. So As I've noted already, this is the Narcissa Bowers residence. It's non-eligible, non-contributing, severely altered, and the placement of solar technology on the front facade is the main issue. So this is an example of the site location. It's located 1 block south of the Willamette River, bounded by South McLoughlin Boulevard to the south and an alley to the west. Its block is bounded by Jerome Street to the west and Apperson to the east. McLoughlin turns from its normal north-south alignment to more of an east-west alignment in this area, just to kind of help orient ourselves. And additional site photos and plans can be found in Exhibit A of the staff report. But as you can see, the property is set about 30 feet back from the sidewalk there fronting McLoughlin Boulevard and sits further back than the homes on adjacent properties. This is the historic image from the 1983 survey wasn't terribly legible, so I took the photo here on the front of the that was featured in the 2007 survey, and the additional flora in the front there appears to be no longer present. But the home is a circa 1909 bungalow style with a low-pitched hip roof and a front porch that was enclosed more than 40 years ago. The front porch area shows faux brick appliques that were not part of the site's original construction. Windows with grid lines were installed in this porch enclosure, while the windows on the rest of the structure appear to be single hung style. The roof on the house is a dark composition shingle, siding on either side of the enclosed porch. You can kind of see in the second image there with the ladder leaning against the house. To the right, the siding doesn't match the home's siding in color, reveal size, or material. Let's see here. And then we've got left side and rear views. The left side looking east is looking east from the alley, so this is what the neighbor to the west sees. And then the rear elevation looking south doesn't show quite as much alteration as the front facade does. But the southern facade will have is slated to have 6 of the 13 solar panels located on the roof. For added kind of perspective, these are photographs from the street level, sort of looking northeast and northwest along McLoughlin, showing kind of how visible the solar panels would be on this front plane from McLoughlin. The 1983 form noted that the structure is in an area of mixed-use development fronting a state highway. The property is a permitted pre-existing residential use that is currently zoned historic commercial. The solar panel array on the South McLoughlin facade would likely be fully obscured by the roof cross gable when looking west from South McLoughlin. However, the array would be more visible from the eastward looking vantage point along McLoughlin. And then this is a site plan, and I've circled the portion of the project in question, showing the 7 solar panels there on the southern roof plane. The other 6 panels are located on the northern plane, not visible from the street. And additionally, mechanical equipment supporting the solar array is proposed along the western facade of the home. We don't have a screening plan or further details about the equipment with the submittal, but screening requirements may be met through the conditions of approval, which we'll go over in a bit. This is the applicant's solar irradiance study, showing significantly higher irradiance on that front facade. The lighter colors are greater solar irradiance, the darker colors are less. One is the southern facing elevation, and I've labeled all of the roof planes just for reference here. Roof sections 3 and 4 appear to receive more solar irradiance than 2, 5, and 6, but less than 1. And the applicant submittal didn't clarify the viability of putting these solar panels on on the western facing roof planes, but their solar study did show a greater irradiance for the southern plane. And then this is the applicant's rendering, kind of giving an idea of the profile given the roof pitch and location of the proposed solar panels looking straight on from the street. Obviously, the neighboring homes have been flattened in this composite view, but it shows an approximation of the projected visibility of those panels on the frontage. So, the Historic Overlay District exterior alterations and new construction code in OCMC 1740 talks about several different criteria that can be used by the board in reaching a decision on appropriateness. And I've highlighted a couple that kind of seem to apply in a case like this, particularly the provisions of the city comprehensive plan, economic, social, environmental, and energy consequences and design guidelines adopted by the Historic Review Board. So as energy prices rise and renewable technology becomes more affordable and more common and more critical to our response to climate change, the board can balance these factors with the concerns of historic integrity, because the panels are only placed on the roof and will not cover or destroy historical materials or features, and are designed to be removed in the future without causing irreparable damage to the structure. The board may find that the panels will not affect the integrity of the structure. And so with that, the additional comprehensive plan considerations, and I'm having a hard time advancing the slide. There we go, okay. So I looked through the comprehensive plan to kind of find the wording that that the Historic Review Code refers to. And when studying the goals, policies, and strategies of our latest comprehensive plan, 2 points stood out, one historic and one not. The Historic Review Board may or may not see these policies as relevant to one another, and may or may not use that as a basis for a decision. But staff is requesting confirmation from the Historic Review Board as to whether or not the non-contributing status of the resource and the proposed configuration's position to take maximum advantage of solar irradiance are significant mitigating factors that might allow street visible solar panel placement. If the board finds that these panels will impact the historic integrity of the home, the proposal's impacts may also be mitigated by limiting the number of panels on the upper roof plane, or altering the configuration so that the panels are moved to secondary planes according to the Historic Review policies. So we've recommended the following conditions of approval. And once again, to clarify, planning staff is seeking direction from the Historic Review Board to determine if this proposal does or does not adversely impact the historic resource for the Narcissa Bowers Residence at 607 South McLoughlin or the Canemah Historic District. If the board finds that the proposed location of the solar panels on the primary facade do not adversely affect the resource, in light of all of these factors in the solar irradiance study and the comprehensive plan strategies, then we recommend the following conditions of approval. They're pretty standard solar panel conditions of approval. Applicant shall submit documentation showing that the panels will be no more than 5 inches above the roof surface. Applicant shall submit documentation confirming the number and location of the southern South McLoughlin facing solar panels is either necessary for the viability of the project or an alternative solar panel configuration on other roof surfaces that meet HRB standards. The panel frame shall be black, no unfinished shiny metal frames or visible parts permitted. Ground or wall-mounted equipment shall not obscure any architectural features and shall not be installed in a manner that destroys historic millwork or other historic materials, and the applicant shall submit a sketch or mock-up of the equipment placement to staff to demonstrate compliance with this condition. And then the applicant shall ensure that the ground-mounted equipment is blocked from pedestrian view by use of fencing or landscaping. So, as always, you have a number of options in response to this project to approve the proposal and adopt the associated findings with conditions. If you approve, then you agree to adopt the staff report as written. You can approve the proposal with modified conditions and provide additional findings. And if you wish to do that, you can explain why and specify desired modifications to the conditions. You can deny the proposal, close the record, and continue the hearing to May 28th, 2024 to adopt final findings. If you choose to do that, please provide concise findings for denial, and I will include them in the final notice of decision. Or you can continue the hearing to a date certain of May 28th and request additional information from the applicant. And if you feel like additional information is needed to make a decision in this case, please provide direction to staff and the applicant, and the matter will be continued to the following meeting. And if you could provide specific information needed to make a decision, that can be sought as well.
Thank you. Do any board members have any questions for staff?
I do not.
The question really that's being presented to us is not so much this building, but the impact on the historic district, because the district is the National Register Historic District. And if we were to create any type of structure that detracts from the district as a whole, then it's inconsistent. And that's the kind of, to me, is the most important element of decision-making right at this point to me. And I'm in favor of solar panels, so it's trying to figure out, I feel very strongly that we should not detract from the historic district and try to do everything we can to make sure that it's like a fence that should not be there, that detracts, or a facing of something that's there, that and it could be right next door. And if it detracts and it creates in a sense, almost a precedence, then that's an issue to consider.
I hear you, Paul. Do you have any questions for staff, though? And if not, we can... we can definitely talk about this during deliberations.
We don't have the applicant here this evening,
Oh, we
so
don't?
if the board
Okay.
wants to.
Oh,
we
just
can
move straight into deliberations?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I thought perhaps...
We've double checked.
Okay.
So you can move into deliberations. if
Okay,
you'd like.
great. So we'll move into board deliberations. Continue, Paul.
Well, this is something I poise at you guys. I'm in a sense one vote, and but it says how much do we respect the National Register designation of Canemah, and is this that onerous that it detracts? And so I would love to hear from others.
You know, I do agree that the National Register District is a good portion of the resource, right? That's one of the things that we need to protect. This house, though, has a considerable loss of integrity in itself, and solar panels are temporary, they're removable. They also serve a very important purpose as far as getting us towards clean energy and making sure that we have a lovely planet to live on. The fact that the hipped roof is also sort of low, it's not like on the bungalow next door where the roof is has this very steep pitch and it's sort of right in your face. It's sort of low and has a black shingle roof. I wonder if it wouldn't blend a little bit. I agree that it's unfortunate that that's the south facing and that it's very, very visible. I'd love to hear what other board members think too.
Well, I would agree that the house is pretty much non-contributing at this point. So putting them on the house is not a big concern for me. The district itself, I always have concerns about the district, but that particular piece of the district is more of a commercial piece. Had this been up 2 blocks up into the hill, it might make a difference to me. But you don't have a lot of pedestrians. You got a lot of traffic off the highway. And I think by and large, they'll be relatively invisible. So I don't believe it will impact the district. I don't believe it'll impact the district to a point where I can say no to that. I think it will probably impact the district a little bit, but, I don't think everybody's going to come out with solar panels all at once in the entire district of Canemah, and if they do, then guess what? We'll be working on that too. So, this piece sits far enough back. I believe it will be relatively invisible. There's already a black roof, on it, and I see it as a pretty simple decision from that perspective. As long as we keep it 5 inches above the roof line so that it's not expanding, as long as we keep it dark, I think it'll, I looked at it from both sides, from all sides, and I really felt that would probably not impact the district.
I agree. I understand the sentiment, Paul, 100%. It's almost halved, though, because you only see it coming from one direction. So the enclosed porch hides it when heading towards Canby. I drove by it twice, and frankly, it's not a contributing factor to that section of the neighborhood. I totally agree that if it were up the hill, whole different discussion to be had altogether. If Ben's Heating and Cooling wants to put solar panels up, I'm going to agree with that as well. It's just that side of the street is really a mishmash of commercial property.
You guys you've identified the area very well. So, and I've driven it a lot, live in Canemah, so I've seen it a lot. But what I'd hoped for was going back and looking at the garage in the back, and I said, wow. Then all of a sudden the pitch is not the right pitch. So I was trying to figure out a way, but that didn't work out. And I'm a proponent of solar and energy savings. How do we save the planet?
Very much so. And I think that if we're going to be proponents of solar, then we want to utilize that number one facing surface that's getting the most radiation, and stymieing that, I don't feel is a good idea.
This is not part of the hearing, but I would rather see if he goes solar, but do something with that brick front for that that make it match the rest of the siding.
Well, I move that we approve the proposal and adopt the associated findings with conditions.
GUA 2403, HR
sorry, Christine.
2303.
Because I'm future use when the next application comes in. I'm thinking of future use when the next application comes in. If you could summarize in 1 or 2 sentences your findings on why this particular resource you are allowing it, that would be very helpful. Jude can put it in the notice of decision, and then when the next one comes in and they say, well, why did you say no to me? And yes, we have a record of it.
We're stopping the precedent from moving forward.
Each application is its own unique proposal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I leave it to someone else then to.
Well, I would say the loss of historical integrity would be one of the considerations. I'd say the low slope of the hipped roof. I'd say the fact that it's in the commercial strip.
And it's set back.
And it's set back from the road.
That part of it is set back so that it obscures the view from a lot of people coming, going southbound on McLoughlin.
Yeah, agreed. So yeah, I'd say the setback, the roof pitch, the loss of historical integrity, and then the fact that it's located within the little commercial strip on McLoughlin.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right?
Yep, sounds good.
Do we need a re?
If we could just do a re-motion and.
Do you want to go ahead?
I don't have
Oh, you don't have
number in front of me, so now I just switched my page.
Oh.
Does anybody have it pulled up?
Yeah, it's,
I'll let someone else motion.
move to approve, let's see, this is,
That's what I.
GLUA 24-0003 and HR 24-0003 with associated findings of conditions, and we have you on record for saying why, right? Okay,
I second it.
perfect.
Board Member Egger.
Yes, I approve.
Thank you. Board Member Powell.
Aye.
Board Member Lawrence.
Aye.
And Chair Ferry.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jude.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Are there any communications?
I have one or two.
We will now close the public
sorry.
testimony portion of the hearing. Apologies.
May is Preservation Month. Yay. So the National Trust for Historic Preservation started Preservation Week, and then they turned it into a month. And we always honor that. The proclamation will be read by the mayor at the May 1st City Commission meeting, and the May 15th meeting will be the awarding of the Ruth Powers Preservation Award. So send me your nominations, please. Hopefully we can get that identified, and then we'll have an award winner. If you are interested in past award winners, all the PDFs of past winners are on the website for the Preservation Award. You can kind of take a look back and see previous ones. We've had people, we've had projects that didn't go in front of the Historic Review Board. We've had non-designated homes that were lovingly taken care of. So all of those are eligible. Second, next month, you will have the red lines for the solar panel policy. That'll be coming up. And then I think you'll have 1 or 2 land use applications. So busy May.
And you want those nominations by when?
As soon as possible, but ideally within the next 2 days, 2 or 3 days.
By Friday?
Yes, and please please directly to me, do not include other board members in your email.
All right, thank you very much. We will now close the April 23rd Historic Review Board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.